My dear friends, I wish to invite you to reflect with me on this gospel passage from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 13, from verse 24 to 44. And over here we have three parables. The parable of the weeds among the wheat, the parable of the mustard seed, and then the parable of the yeast. From these, the focus of my reflection is on the problem of evil. What is the Christian's response? The problem of evil, what is the response of the Christian? My dear friends, from the parable of the weeds among the wheat, Jesus makes it very clear that when the owner of the vineyard was informed that an enemy had sowed bad seeds among the good seeds, he told the servants to wait until the time of harvesting. When the servants were ready and eager to go and pull out the bad seeds, the owner of the vineyard said they should wait until harvesting time. Then the bad seeds will be destroyed. The call to wait till the time of harvesting. If you take the parable of the mustard seed, the person who sows this seed that is so small, so tiny, so insignificant, also has the task of waiting till that time when this seed grows into a mighty tree with branches where birds of the air can come and rest. Again, waiting till that time when it become mighty. Finally, when you look at the parable of the yeast, that yeast, when it's mixed with wheat flour, the woman too has to wait for it to rise. Again, the concept of waiting. So in brief, the response of the Christian to the problem of evil is waiting. And in that context of waiting, we have the virtue of patience. And if there is any virtue we are invited to cultivate or to develop today, it is that virtue of patience. God is still in charge of the world. He is not oblivious to the events of the world. And it's important we who live in this world are patient with one another, with our own selves, and allow God so that at his own time, he will eradicate evil from our world. In 1770, in a tiny church in Italy, it so happened that on this Sunday evening, as the congregation had gathered for benediction, the priest was waiting for the mass service. As the mass servers came with their candles, young as they were, they began to play, and in so doing, one of them hit the head of the other with a candlestick. Unfortunately, blood began to ooze from the head of the one whose head was hit. So the other person also became angry, and then a fighting began. When the parishioners saw what was going on, they all shouted, "Throw them out, throw them out, throw them out." The priest felt so embarrassed by what had happened, and in response to the request of the parishioners, threw these altar servers or mass servers out of the church. Now, history has it that 50 years after, when the same church was celebrating its golden jubilee, the Pope at the time, by name Pope Leo XII, had visited to officiate the event. Now, can you imagine that this Pope was the same mass server who had hit the head of the other mass server with a candlestick? 50 years on, he is now the Pope. Can you again imagine that after Pope Leo came Pope Pius VIII? And interestingly enough, by divine providence, happens to be the one whose head was hit by the candlestick. Was the congregation patient enough? No. But that is the problem we all have. So why is patience so important? My dear friends, the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. In fact, wherever we encounter humanity, be it in our neighborhood, in our families, in our place of work, in our churches, and even ourselves, we discover a mixture of good and bad. We discover a mixture of truth and falsehood. We discover a mixture of humility and pride. We discover a mixture of honesty and hypocrisy. My dear friends, we discover justice. We also discover fraud. We discover faith. We also discover doubt. That is the truth. So at the end, there will be judgment. And God is the judge. And that's why we need to be patient and allow God to be God. So St. Paul says, there must not be passing of premature judgment. Leave that until the Lord comes. 1 Corinthians 4, verse 5. My dear friends, to conclude, do you know that research has said that about 75% of the people who divorce later regret? So the readings today invite all of us to exercise patience. Patience in our relationships. Patience in our families. Patience in our day-to-day events. For a bad husband today, or a bad wife today, or a bad child today, or a bad parent today, or a bad person today, can become a good person tomorrow. Let us be reminded that patience is the response to the problem of evil. May God bless us all. Amen.